Before we start this video, we do want to tell parents or people with young viewers watching, this is a sensitive subject and it may not be appropriate for younger viewers.
Our family, and as you will learn, our community, has been under attack for 5 years. We believe we have a legitimate psychopath after us with multiple personality disorder, and they're trying to cause us, as well as you, serious or fatal harm. It appears we might be their main victim, but it's been brought to our attention that we're not their only victim.
It is possible that this video will end up getting taken down. And so if you're watching it now, we would encourage you to watch the entire thing. It is also possible that this video will cost us our entire channel.
Thank you to the thousands of people that have shown support, reached out to us, or shared their story since we published the last video. And we are going to ask for your help again.
If you're watching this video now, but you don't have time to watch the entire video, but you want to help, we need your help getting this video to the right people, to the FBI, to the RCMP, to cybercrime units, to ensure that we can catch this person. We're going to put links in the description below.
We're not attacking anyone in this video or our previous video. We're sharing the facts of our story of what has been done to us by hundreds of people, creators and non-creators. We are victims, but so are you. We are weapons, but so are you. What we all share is a common, sinister enemy that's hiding in our communities, trying to rip us all apart.
If you're one of those that thinks that this has happened to us because we're public figures or we have a large YouTube channel, our story could just as easily be your story. I'm going to ask you to listen carefully. We get one chance to tell this story. The next few minutes of this video could save you, your family, your loved ones, and the things that you care about from the terror and trauma that our family has experienced over the last 5 years. And what's scary is that your story might not end up as well as ours has. What we're going to share could potentially hurt all of our digital creators' incomes. We are prepared to lose our channel over bringing attention to this issue. We're going to call on the advertisers who fund these platforms, not just YouTube, to express their stern disapproval of what is happening and how it's being handled. Time has shown the only way to get the attention of these mega corporations is to, unfortunately, go after their wallets. We want to make the internet a safer place for all of us, and that's going to require some sacrifice from everybody.
You will see that some of the creators that we shared in our first video too are actually victims of the psychopath. While the things they did individually to collectively harm our family are not okay, this issue is much, much, much larger than that. It's larger than all of us. Viewers who have their grievances against us are also victims. This video will not be perfect, but we're going to give you the best of what we know in the shortest amount of time possible.
If you're new to our channel, we're a couple, now a family, who decided 7 years ago to move to a rural property, learn to be more self-sufficient, and build our dream home debt-free with our own 2 hands. It felt right to document the journey to perhaps inspire others, so we began sharing our journey on this YouTube channel. Our channel shared a positive, wholesome story and grew rapidly during our various home building projects. But the past 5, going on 6 years, we have been victims of cyberbullying that first started online and then escalated into the real world through stalking, harassment, death threats, and trespassing.
If you are someone with an internet connection or know someone with an internet connection, this is your fight. If you're someone who has children whose athletic photos are posted online, or you have children that use social media, this affects you. If you post shoes for sale in a local mom's Facebook yard sale group, this affects you.
We all use and love the internet. It makes us laugh, it teaches us things, and it inspires us. There's something different about the internet that makes us let our guard down. Our brain trusts what our eyes see, but the internet has a way of tricking our eyes. Things might look like one thing, but in reality, there's something completely different, and our story is going to really illuminate this. We are the bait. We're also the victims, but you guys are actually the targets. The psychopath wants us to do something to you, which would be totally normal, to make us look mentally unstable. Lucky for the people who wittingly or unwittingly have partaken in the things that have happened to our family, we actually are well-grounded and mentally stable people. We have not retaliated or taken any unreasonable action towards anybody. Instead, we've waited patiently to gather the information that we're going to show you today. Since we shared our first video, the mountain of evidence has only gotten larger.
So let's get the obvious question everyone wants to know out of the way first. What did you do to deserve this? People are very shocked to learn that we actually don't cover any controversial subjects, of which there are many. We aren't wrapped up in inter-channel drama. Many people have dug and tried to find the things that we have said to cause this to happen to us. The truth is, this all began when our channel was quite small. Long before all the petty drama that you see now with everyone's gripes and complaints. Long before we even started our house build. Long before our pregnancy. Long before the majority of you even found our channel at all. At the very end of the day, we're just two average people, like most of the people watching this.
So what is their motive? We actually believe this has nothing to do with us personally. You will actually see that the target is actually our audience, you, and we are actually the bait. No, we do not know this person. We are more of a character that they latched onto due to timing. We are actually an early beneficiary in the large and growing interest in rural living, self-sufficiency, and home building. This psychopath is actually using our story and our popularity to stir up and generate hate. We think that they ultimately get pleasure from the power that comes from what they're doing. They also get pleasure from manipulating other people and then watching that happen. This is actually a new breed of criminal that is born out of the internet.
Many of you might be asking, why are we just now speaking out about this? It actually took us a long time to learn the degree of severity of what was happening to us. Partially, we had no way to uncover the identity of the people doing this. Not just the mass organization, but the people in our local community who were very keen to hide. We thought we had an angry mob after us, but no one person did anything bad enough to warrant prosecution. Evidence against any one person was very scant. Reporting specific incidents to law enforcement, as well as seeking legal help, didn't build our confidence, but left us feeling absolutely helpless. So instead, we tried to bottle it all up and ignore it and hoped it would go away. Many of you know that we've taken a multi-year break from YouTube, hoping the attacks would stop. They did not. They won't stop. We were trying to move on with our lives when suddenly this person made a mistake, and that tipped the scales in our favor. Suddenly, we went to work trying to get this story out. We knew once we would start to share our story that this could turn into something much larger, and that's exactly what is happening.
We finally had indisputable evidence that this is not an angry mob that's after us. It's actually one person. We finally had proof that many people had been victimized by this person, not only digitally, but also in our local community. Once we obtained what we believed to be their real name and their real location, we felt we had to do something about it and speak up and speak out. You're going to see that while we're all different, we actually have a single common enemy, and that should make all of us angry. It is not time to have our squabbles. It's time to unite and locate and make sure that this person is taken to justice. We all know the power of the internet, and we hope that by working together, we can bring this person out of the shadows. And just maybe we can identify other people who are doing the same thing. Maybe by making an example out of this person, we can save lives and potentially get this person the help that they need.
We want to take a minute to share what this video is and is not. This video will offend people. It will be upsetting. You may realize you're a victim. It will make you angry. You will feel deceived. This video will show you why you should be less trusting and more skeptical of everything you see on the internet. Everyone and everything, including us. Not because people are bad, but because the internet has the power to deceive anyone, including those that are extremely savvy.
For creators, this is a chance for you to think about the platform you've been given and how powerful your voice is to influence the actions of others. You can contribute to the problem, or you can contribute to the solution. We are not attacking anyone. We have a common enemy. Things you know, where you live, and who you associate with have been weaponized against you and used to trick you into doing things that have bad outcomes. Now it's time to dive into the story. The question we want to answer in this video is, who is Chris L?
We believe this is a high-grade, high-functioning psychopath with a multiple personality disorder. This person is very smart and they appear to be very digitally savvy. They have several different personas that we've identified, and they seem to keep them all straight, and they have conversations with themselves. There's just enough separation in what they're doing that you wouldn't notice unless you look closely, like really closely, like the kind of close you look when someone is trying to harm your family. We believe we've been the primary target of this person for over 5 years, and they spend close to every waking hour of their life digitally harassing us under hundreds, if not thousands, of usernames that they operate from through virtual private networks or VPNs, which gives the ability to mask the IP address of their anonymous usernames, making them almost impossible to catch. Again, they appear to be very smart and have many skills, of which we will show you.
We believe they're involved in a method of psychological torture called no-touch torture. The way this works is they don't actually do anything to us personally. Instead, they manipulate other people to do things to us, and they derive pleasure from watching. They are coordinating an effort called gang stalking, and they're doing this from the comfort and security of their own home. They get other people to engage in surveillance and trespassing, people who are pretty much unaware that they're actually the victim of a high-functioning psychopath. They have successfully created the illusion that we have an angry mob of people after us. We have proof to show that while there are other people involved, a lot of the truly alarming activity is actually being carried out or fabricated by a single person.
To do this video justice, it's important that we start from the beginning of the story. And where it all really began is the comments section on our channel. In 2017, we were busy installing an off-grid water system for our property, and we were trying to trench 250 feet on a hillside with a 45-degree slope in compacted rock that you couldn't dig with a shovel. You had to use something called a pneumatic excavator, which is basically blasting air at rocks to loosen them, and then layer by layer, you eventually dig down 3 feet. It was so laborious that there were days we only went 4 feet. Our bones, they ached at the end of the day. And we were trying to get this 250 feet of trench done before the snowflakes started flying. That just helps you understand that we had no time. And mind you, we were filming this, we were trying to create videos around this, and we were doing this day after day for weeks. Meanwhile, the comments section was starting to get out of control because we only had very, very basic moderation set up. And we're not talking about the typical mean comments that are a given when you're a creator or you pretty much say anything on the internet. We're talking about stuff that's much more deep and sinister than that.
When we started to pay attention, we started to see a slurry of comments trying to post our address. Let me read to you a few ways that they went about doing this to get around moderation. Since our actual address was flagged for moderation, they started spelling our address backwards. They started spelling our street name backwards. They created usernames using our address. They shared our GPS coordinates. They shared our GPS coordinates backwards. They shared the address of our neighbors. They were doing everything within their power to make our address public. We have nothing to hide, but what they were posting was totally irrelevant to the channel. They were trying to discredit us and generate hate about us, at first using their fake personas. Like any normal people, we actually believed this was an angry mob coming after us. At the time, we did not understand that this was one single person using hundreds or thousands of fake anonymous usernames. This got our attention and was a heads up. We need to take a closer look at this comments thing.
What we observed was that there were these massive threads being created under one comment. It looked like these personas were like arguing themselves. Like it seemed very abnormal. And some of the things they were talking about like weren't even that personal. It just kind of sounded like a madman with multiple personalities talking with himself. Seeing this type of communication and behavior in relation to the usernames that were trying to work extremely hard to post our address started to give us that feeling like in the pit of our stomach, like this something is wrong here. It would get to the point where we would publish a new video and just boom, these comments, these people, this mob would come out and like attack us in the same sense, like immediately, bot-like. And that too, we're like, that's not normal. Normally, these comments kind of filter in over the day, you know, within the hour. But like, this is all there. It's immediate. It's instant. Like, like this, like just, it comes out and attacks you. Who has time to do that? You're telling me there's all these people that have time the second we post a video to jump on it. There were a lot of themes to their comments and again, their behavior. And it was starting to look like a lot of the things they were saying were really copy and pasted from one user name to another, which started to really make us think, I think this is one person. Way back in 2017, I started screenshotting stuff that made me feel unsettled. But way back then, I actually created a unique folder called Psychopath. And I started putting this stuff in there because I just had a feeling like, I don't know what this is. This makes me feel very alarmed. The stuff they were sharing was so vulgar and they were sharing it with such a malicious intent. And we didn't really know what to do about it because we wanted people to comment. We didn't even mind the mean comments or the naysayers or the constructive criticism, but we didn't have time to manually approve every single comment. So what we did was we bulked up our moderation by adding to our blocked keywords list using things that were their footprint. Meaning if comments contained certain words, those comments were held. We stuffed that thing so full that we had to be close to the character limit. This person had so many footprints. Let me read to you what some of those were. Our city, nearby cities, our county, nearby businesses, street names, GPS coordinates. Every family member was put into our list of banned keywords, past acquaintances, every variation of our address that you could imagine, certain number figures that they would throw out. Nothing stopped them. So we did what every creator fears. We came down with the hammer. An experiment, if you wish. We finally started blocking every username that we thought was this person. We were very aware that it was likely that innocence would be taken out with this, but we had to try something. We had to see what would happen. And within minutes, they started posting under yet new usernames saying that they were very aware that we were heavily moderating our comments. The only reason they would know that is if it was the same person, because other people that quickly wouldn't be able to collaborate. What they immediately started doing was running around the internet saying that we are censoring constructive criticism. They immediately started running around to other channels saying, watch out, Jesse's on the loose. Jesse's coming down with the hammer. He is banning your constructive criticism. That we are taking away people's First Amendment right to freedom of speech. They finally admitted what we suspected all along is that they can create usernames faster than we can ban them. And they were very mad that we took away their voice.
We have no doubt that in this heavy moderation, there were people who were legitimate people who got caught in this. But constructive criticism is okay. But if you're going to be spiteful, hateful, mean, and aggressive, you're gone. We actually tried this as an experiment because this person was manipulating the way the YouTube comments section works. What they would do is respond to any negative comment that someone else had made already. And the way the voting system works in the comment section is the comment with the most upvotes or the most votes surfaces to the top, which makes it more visible. This was their way of using someone else's maybe not very nice comment to make sure that their nasty, hateful, spiteful, garbage vitriol surfaces to the top so that everybody gets to see it. And of course, people being people would see the hateful, spiteful stuff, and guess what? You get caught in the web of a psychopath. Something few people understand is that YouTube actually holds creators responsible for the comment sections on our channels. If we don't tend to these and make sure that they follow the community guidelines, we can lose our channel. And you can see why we would take the action that protects our channel over someone wanting to express constructive criticism. When we first started, we spent a lot of time creating and really almost no time doing comment moderation. At some point, all we did was comment moderation. At the time, we kind of looked at the math and said, look, it looks like around 1% of our viewers actually comment at all. And we were willing to say, you know what, if the 99% are interested in commenting, maybe it's okay if we just eliminate this, and so we can just focus on creating, which is why you folks come to the channel in the first place. We now know that this was actually their goal all along. They were trying to get our comment section turned off. The reason they did this is because it made us look like that we're heavy-handed moderators trying to silence people who have just legitimate complaints about a legitimate channel. And this led to the birth of the off-site Pure Living for Life hate groups. Now, because there was nowhere to legitimately discuss our channel, they provided a platform where you can come and you can discuss Pure Living for Life, and they, unlike us, do not censor you. So they used our normal reaction of turning off the comments so we don't have to deal with it as recruitment tool, as bait to lure people into this discussion and the vitriol and the vulgar conversation. We want to make something really clear here that someone who's not internet savvy would not know. Oh, their groups are moderated. What happens is a comment is there for such a short period of time you wouldn't even see it. That's how quick they moderate their groups. But they yell and scream at the top of their lungs about free speech. We just want to make it clear, don't be tricked. So to be clear, real people got lured into this group under the guise of free speech. If you're one of those people who has taken the time to visit one of these groups, you could be easily tricked into thinking that, man, there's a lot of people in here. I can't believe they have this many people who hate them. And what you're seeing is that this is one person having a conversation with themselves, and it looks like a lot of people. And that is the trap of the psychopath.
So now we're going to talk about the hate groups. This is a very important section. So when people, curious, malicious, or otherwise, would find their way into the hate groups, this is the type of thing that they would be greeted with. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Have you been banned from commenting on the Pure Living for Life YouTube channel? Us too. Join all of us who have been silenced from providing constructive criticism. To Jesse and Alyssa, we are a wonderful community, and this is a place where we can discuss their building practices unmoderated. So when you are warmly welcome to the group, and then people start commenting, welcome, 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 that too is this one person. So bear with us as kind of the story and a little bit of the history of these groups unfolds. There are 3 groups currently, and 2 of them, the moderator, the leader, the admin, is the psychopath. This primary persona is actually a very caring and naive, even experienced woman that really doesn't know anything about anything. She's just, I'm just so naive. Can someone please help me understand like how this Facebook thing works? I don't really know much about Facebook Messenger. Yeah, I don't really use this that often. I need people to help me. They give out lots of compliments, lots of pats on the back. They're very nurturing, almost mother-like. They're very good at making people feel like they belong. When we first started clicking around these groups, we observed that a lot of the group members were what we would describe as throwaway accounts. They were all aliases. They had no history, no friends. It was very clear that these were fake accounts. What we didn't know was who was behind them, and initially we did suspect certain creators, but I think a lot of these were actually this one person. There were real people in the group. We do have proof of that. But I think initially the number of real people was actually quite small in comparison. They would allow threads in their group like, hey everyone, why do you think they don't live in their house? And they started having people watching our videos frame by frame, trying to find evidence, holes in our story, if you will, and they would compile all this information, and what this became was a recruitment tool for curious viewers. Here are some of the ways that they would justify the existence and the creation of these groups. Well, we only created this group because you don't allow us to comment. You took away our freedom of speech. You have silenced us. You just have to admit that you don't know what you're doing, which we admit in pretty much every video. They said, you just need to tell the truth and we'll stop. But there wasn't a truth to tell. We were telling the truth. They began heavily recruiting to their groups through the comment section of other creators, and people would come to the groups either out of natural curiosity with malicious intent or because they wanted to promote their own channels.
They had hundreds or thousands of usernames that they kept unique across numerous platforms to make it look like the people on each platform were unique people, creating the illusion of an angry mob. To be more specific, the people on Reddit don't line up to YouTube, don't line up to Facebook. So it looks like, oh, there's all these people on this platform, but those are not the same people on this platform. It's all the same person. There's a lot happening simultaneously here. So if you're feeling a little confused, don't worry, stick with us. We're gonna lay it all out.
So shortly after the birth of these off-site hate groups was the birth of these cartoon renderings about us and malicious satire. Someone came to the group leader, the Psychopath, and said, hey, look what I created. I created something amazing. You need to check it out. And the Psychopath would say, oh, wow, who is this amazing person that is dedicating their time to benefit us all and expose these people? Thank you, wow. And I think that was actually one persona gifting this satire to the nurturing persona. These were extremely crude, sexual, derogatory, creepy, and had terrifyingly accurate representations of our house and scenes in our videos, including our hot tub, house exterior, house interior, our electrical pedestal, the sawmill, creepy stuff. I don't even know how one would create this stuff or how long it would take, but I think we could all agree a lot of thought and time was put into these. And where it gets really crazy is as soon as a new video was published on a brand spanking new channel, mind you, with no subscribers, the same thing that happened in the comments of those videos was happening on our videos. Within minutes, they would get flooded with comments from the same usernames that we banned in the very same argumentative style. Every once in a while, a real person would chime in, wow, these are great, keep it up, this is spectacular work. And then other real people would stumble upon these videos and say, wow, this is twisted, this is wrong, you people are creepy. You don't do this to another human being.
And naturally, these hateful, vitriol, vulgar videos would find their way into the comment section of, you guessed it, other creators' comments. This was their way of sprinkling bait out into the public for people to quote unquote discover. People, real or otherwise, would get super excited when they would see a new video built to hate on us. They would grab their popcorn and see what all the buzz was about. At the time, we, like anybody, thought there were hundreds of people celebrating this disgustingness. And as we have obviously started to show, no, this is one sick person. At that time, we had channels popping up left and right, stealing and downloading our content called copyright theft, trying to monetize that content. And they were also creating channels to mock us, satire, disgusting stuff. This was keeping us extremely busy trying to figure out what in the world is going on. Something that's very, very important to understand is this person never shows their face. They take your content and they spin it into something else. So you'll never figure out who they are because they're not public people. Another really important footprint of this person is they use robotic-like voiceovers and they use captions. Now they don't have to use their voice. Like any creator, when we deal with copyright theft, we worked to get these channels removed. That's not right. That's a natural recourse that creators have on YouTube because people do it. And YouTube makes it perfectly legal for us to remove that content. And what did they do? They used our natural recourse as creators as a recruitment tool to say that they're now silencing people trying to have their freeness of speech. At one point, they created a template so that you could participate in the hate and slander and harassment. And this was simply a 3D rendering of us in our hot tub. Anybody who knows our channel knows this stuff. And they wanted you to take this information, download it, and add your nasty to it. There's no constructive criticism here, folks.
No.
This is victimization, harassment, sexualization. I don't even know. The list is long.
The book. They announced to the group that somebody in the group was creating a book about us, a masterpiece, a work of art. Several people were contributing to this book. Everyone was just bringing this poor me, this naive woman, all of this information, and she was just the messenger. She was just compiling it into the book. They, or this person, compiled a 257-page book about us. Every single detail they could find about us digitally from the time Jesse was a freshman in high school. That's 26 years ago. 2.5 decades. A lot of people watching this video aren't even that old. Let me read to you some of the things that can be found in this book. Past residences, criminal records of our family, vacations we've taken, detailed history of our cats, past jobs, business associates, channel partners, relationships, court records, activity under every old username they could find about us, high school yearbook photos, high school sports team photos, collegiate sport teams photos. They even fabricated things they wanted in these documents via impersonation by registering accounts under these past usernames, commenting as us, and then putting it in the PDF. Sufficient to fool anyone without the facts.
Nothing contained in the book that's real is anything that we're ashamed of. It's nothing that we've lied about or deceived anyone about. There are parts of our lives that we haven't shared or told anybody about, but they are discoverable on the internet. And of course, there's things that we haven't shared because it's just not relevant. Do you guys really want to know what I looked like as a freshman in high school? This book is a work of art. In the time we have built a rural property and built a house, they built the book. The level of detail and organization in this book is shocking. To people we have shared it with, they look at this document and go, wow, that's crazy. Why would somebody do that? Who has time to do that? How did they do that? In this book was our address and all the neighboring businesses and neighbors and other addresses one could use using their own curiosity to find our home. In there was a very kind disclaimer that says, we realize that this information could make somebody do something very, very bad, and we are not responsible. And the information in here may not be complete, reliable, or trustworthy, and we don't take any responsibility for that either. And yes, they promoted the book in the comment section of other creators' YouTube channels as bait to people who are just curious, like, oh, what is up with those guys? Did you know that Pure Living for Life is hiding something? Did you know they don't even live in their house? They're a scam. Oh, did you want to know more? Come check out our book. Darn, are you having a hard time getting that? Hey, just shoot me your email and I'll send it right on over. Even though somehow in 257 pages, they proved nothing. This book was pinned to the top of every one of their hate groups. That way, all the new members, welcome aboard. Guess what? Here's the book of everything you want to know about Pure Living for Life. Interesting, since we published our first video, the book is gone. They've taken this massive PDF down from the groups. But don't worry, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of people who have either downloaded this book or have been emailed this book.
We're going to dedicate an entire section to the doxing and showing of our address because that's an extremely critical piece of this whole thing. The inevitable fear of any YouTube creator is, are people going to find out where I live, where my children sleep at night? And I think most creators would agree, yes, that will be found out. This person made it their MO to let everyone know where we live. We already shared that they did this in the comments section of our videos. The problem is that they started doing it in the comments section of other creators, and we had no control if that stuff was taken down or not. They also posted about it incessantly in their group, despite how much they're working very hard to say we never allowed address in this group. If you find an address, report it to me, the Psychopath, and I will ensure it gets removed. And that's why the book was eventually removed, because our address was in there for years. And so many people have copies of this. I have so many screenshots of all the times our address was put in the group. And even if it was eventually taken down, it was up there for a long time. At one point, they put up the creepy doxing guidelines. They wanted to publicly state what the boundaries were in the group, even if they themselves or other group members didn't follow them. It was more of a ploy to make the group look very legit that they were following the Reddit and Facebook guidelines so that they could not have their groups shut down.
This person made it their goal to make sure that every single day there was a map pin on Google Maps for our house. We would have this map pin removed because it's a violation of Google's terms of service, and the very next day the pin is back. They also, of course, posted our GPS coordinates, and they got to the point where they were posting neighboring businesses, neighbors' addresses, because they felt that this was not a violation of doxing laws. And as we've already mentioned, even if they did remove the address from their group, it was in the book, and the book was readily available to anybody. Everybody knew our address. They made sure everybody knew. And so even people in the local community were like, oh yeah, I know right where you live, and they're driving by. But what they didn't realize is that they're like, well, we thought you wanted people to drive by. I mean, you put your house on Google Maps. We figured you wanted people to drive by. An obvious question to any human being why would we do that? The end result is we have people driving by daily. No, numerous times a day. We actually call it the slow drive-by. A lot of people know stopping, that's kind of weird. I mean, you did get all the way to our house and you are filming our house and you're taking pictures of our house, but stopping, somehow that crosses a line. So instead, you kind of do the weird slow drive-by rubbernecking like this. Trust me, even if you don't stop, it's still weird. We also, at one point, had an excessive amount of random packages showing up at our house. We did actually publish an address where people who wanted to send us things, which is normal, could do that, but it's not our home address. We actually didn't even give out an address in the same town. We obviously don't have a mailbox at our house because that's just an open invitation for some pretty crazy stuff. At first, we actually did like getting packages at the address we shared publicly, and we enjoyed opening those gifts, some of which we even shared on camera. But when you have an anonymous package show up at your house, which is not an address you've shared anywhere, you have to assume one thing: someone's probably trying to hurt you. I guess we need to say it, that's an abuse of information that you stumbled on the internet, and I don't know why any normal person would think that's okay, or why they would think that we would be welcoming to that. And then they started sending packages to the neighbor's house, trying to get packages delivered to us. And because we're a small community, people know people. And so they're thinking, well, this package doesn't go here, it goes over there. And so what do? They get it delivered. We've had food show up in our driveway. We've had notes left on our gate. And at some point we finally said, this is enough. We're going to reject all packages that come to our home address. Some of you, legitimate people, which ironically somehow stumbled on our address and just randomly sent us packages, maybe were legitimately befuddled when your package was returned undelivered. You couldn't put two and two together, and now you know why. We had a fine bottle of wine delivered by a couple who just happened to be traveling in the area from thousands of miles away and thought they'd swing on by and drop off a bottle of wine. You take the first drink, we'll take the second. Some of the notes left on our driveway would say things like, "Don't worry, we respect your privacy." Apparently, coming to our gate but not trespassing is respecting privacy. At one point, we had a creator trying to get views, create a video about our channel, and use our name in the title of that video to get views, and in the video disclosed our address. His justification for that was, well, you can find it on the internet, and they don't live there anyways.
Also, before I get comments about putting their address in the video, if you do a simple search for Jesse and Alyssa, Pure Living for Life, their address shows up on Reddit there. So
he also fell for the lie that our house was for sale and that we don't live there, and that justifies doxing. I want to make it very clear, this wasn't some person who just randomly stumbled on this group. This person was a member of these groups for over 5 years. What we're trying to show here is how important doxing and making someone's address public is to the no-touch torture strategy. In order for a bunch of people to come and harass you, they need to know where you live. It's really important to this psychopath that other people carry out the torture, and that's why they spend all of their time making sure that everybody knows where you live. That way other people can carry out the no-touch torture.
So now we're going to talk about how all of that escalated to real life harassment. And this was during the time of our pregnancy and the birth of our first child. People started talking about what they wanted to do to us. The psychopath would very much encourage these conversations and say, you all have some really clever ideas. I really like that. I want to share a list of things they talked about doing, some of which they actually did, although not all of them. Making false reports to the IRS, CPS, FAA, the FTC, the Idaho Attorney General, the Department of Building Safety. At one point, someone who did actually carry out one of these things posted a meme about it afterwards. And the meme said, I might not be able to huff and puff and blow your house down, but I can get the government to do it for me. And, well, that's pretty much the same thing. One person admitted to using the building permit system to try to have our power shut off on Christmas Eve during our pregnancy. We'll probably share that story in its own video, but what this person had to say at the end of it all was, Merry Christmas, Jesse. And so what started was what is referred to as gang stalking, where people were collectively physically trespassing our property. They were doing routine surveillance on our property. They were doing drive-bys, and they would go straight to the group to report what they saw or what they photographed.
The psychopath, because they're hiding behind their computer and they have no arms or legs to affect us, needed to recruit local people to carry out their actions. So they started recruiting local residents and local YouTube creators to stalk, trespass, and harass us. This is a case of the end justifies the means. They had created so many twisted rumors and theories about how we're fake, we don't live here, we're not real, we don't even have a child, that they were willing to recruit anybody willing to help prove their case. And so this was an instance of, it doesn't matter what we do to these people, so long as we prove we were right in the end, it's okay. And now comes the financial incentive. They started offering gift certificates to whoever could find where we actually lived. Apparently there's some rental house that we lived in that we're not aware of. And they were just sure of this. And so they were willing to pay anybody who could find this house. And man, what happens when the group is silent? Remember, this psychopath has no arms and no legs because they cannot touch us personally. And so what they would do is periodically try to wake up the group. And by that, we mean wake up the local people. Hey, has anybody seen these people lately? Hey, does anybody know anything going on? We really need somebody to go by and give us an update. We're just not sure what's going on. And what they were trying to do was get up to the minute intel on our family. Where are they going? Do they still there? Have you seen anything? Have you seen any smoke from the chimney? Are they even living there? A local resident, a church pastor who we would call a neighbor, was recruited to do daily drive-bys of our property for weeks. At times, they would drive by day and night, giving meticulous updates on very small details about our daily life. For example, which cars were in the driveway? Was the equipment moved? Had anything changed? Were there tracks in the driveway? Have you seen anybody around? Were the lights on? Were the lights off? We felt at the time that the objective of the psychopath was to get other people to get involved in the weaponization of our child. Some very clever ideas were brought to the group to stalk local hospitals, birthing centers, newspaper records and things, trying to uncover the name, gender, identity of our child. As you can imagine, if they were able to find this information, they were only going to use it for one purpose: to continue the harassment and threatening at a very vulnerable time. This church pastor would at times take photos. They were trying to be very discreet though, because they knew if we were to discover them in this small community, this information would be very damaging to their family. We're going to talk about local law enforcement a little bit more later, but we did bring this stalking case to the local sheriff to deal with, and their response was a gross minimization of what was happening, which, by the way, the psychopath is very well aware of. In fact, they were emboldening people to drive by, assuring them that this activity is constitutionally protected because you're on a public roadway and there's nothing they can do about it. For the record, the criminal code doesn't make it very clear that the intent and the frequency in which person engages in this activity does actually meet the criminal elements of the case. So these people who were engaging in this stuff were actually being tricked by the psychopath. We have security cameras, like most people in this modern day, and we were having to screen every single vehicle going by our property to try to determine who are these people. I guess we need to say it for those people out there who don't understand. Do you think that criminals drive by with their identity on the side of their car, or that they don't do it in such a way to not stand out and be conspicuous? It's very, very difficult to figure out who these people are. It took us 2.5 years to piece together who this person is. The challenge is that you know that someone in your local community, potentially in your neighborhood, is a part of this, and it starts to make you question who is doing this. Who among my community is a snitch to a group of people whose sole objective is to harm and harass my family? There are creators who are foolish enough to disclose their premeditated involvement in this activity, which gave us a clue of their intentions. And that, ironically, made it easier to identify some of the people who were involved in this stuff. A lot of people jumped on this bandwagon. It became a thing to drive by our house and take pictures and post it to the internet. As you can see, the no-touch torture is working perfectly. They have created a network of local people who are willing to drive by constantly, while this psychopath sits quietly and safely in their home.
We were literally in fear of going outside. We were afraid of doing anything that could be visible from the road. We were afraid to have our child anywhere on our property that was visible from the road. At times, this was unavoidable due to what we were working on. And at one point, our child was visible from the road, and we saw the slow drive-by, and then we saw that they had turned around, and then they drove slowly the other way. It's a pattern. And within hours, that footage was uploaded to one of these groups. You can see how this group stalking mentality can lead to a very justified paranoia. It's random, but it's consistent. It's consistently random. You never know who's a curious looky-loo, of which there are plenty, and who actually has malicious intent. There are times we talk to some of these looky-loos only to find out that they had malicious intent later and were indeed part of these groups.
Because we live in a small town and we do live in a remote area, it's not uncommon for people to get lost or turned around when trying to find something. And so it's normal to ask people if they need help finding something. And one day we had a looky-loo that had done multiple laps by our home. We thought we'll just ask the person to see if maybe they're lost, because that does actually happen and people around here are friendly. And we asked the person, is anything going on? Yeah. They're not lost. They're just looking at property for sale. They're a realtor. That person went straight to the troll group and they used my normal neighborly kindness of asking someone if they needed help and turned it into Jesse is policing the neighborhood. He's crazy. He's finally really lost it. He thinks he controls the public roadways. And you can see how they spin the narrative from being a nefarious person into Jesse's crazy.
One isolated incident, someone did actually physically trespass our property. The gate was closed. There was a no trespassing sign posted. They went around the gate and they did proceed to photograph our home and our property. And what's really alarming is that we were actually home at the time and we didn't even learn of this until later when it was brought to our attention. They seemed to be very proud of what they did and then bragged that they ran across an international border to seek asylum where they felt they were untouchable. We had other people in the community leak information. We've had family participate, all because of the careful grooming from the psychopath.
Through the crowdsourcing of nefarious intent, this group discovered that our local airport had a webcam. And because I'm a pilot, they realized that they could monitor the airport to see if they could figure out our comings and goings. At one point, they had volunteers in the group monitoring this webcam 24/7. Because at the time we owned a personal airplane, they were also monitoring to see any time our airplane would be visible in the webcam so they could monitor our movements. The group also figured out that they could use data from a safety device installed on all aircraft now to monitor our movements in the airplane in real time, when the airplane would take off, its route of flight, its altitude, its speed, and where it landed. Because of the things that have happened to us, when we purchased our airplane, we actually made a request to the FAA to make the information shared by this safety device private. And they actually did honor that because that is a provision by the FAA for obvious reasons. But the group figured out that there's another group of nefarious people who are able to crowdsource the information from this in an open and legal, for now, way, and put this information on the internet for anyone to see. This crowdsourcing of information allows nefarious people to circumvent the safety measures put in place by the FAA for this exact situation. We had times where we were in the air flying with our child and our family to a destination, and it came to our attention that the hate groups were actually monitoring our movement at that exact point in time. And when our aircraft landed, they would know precisely when and where. And it would be pretty obvious if we're in the airplane, we're probably not home.
Let's talk about the monitoring of police reports. The Psychopath was actively monitoring police records, things like 911 calls. This did actually put the idea in our head that we were afraid to call 911 because that information too would be used against us, and this person with their timestamps could easily use a FOIA request to request that information, the calls, the body cam footage, stuff like that. And had they achieved that, they would have weaponized what they found. Did we get law enforcement involved? So here's the thing. Local law enforcement can't do much when it comes to cybercrime. What they can and should do is help with things that do happen in their jurisdiction. We reached out to law enforcement several times throughout all of this. Numerous 911 calls were made during that time because when we knew someone was on their way to our house, we didn't know what these people were going to do, and we really didn't want to find out.
For one specific trespasser, of which there were many, we had all the proof in the world. We had their identity, we had a confession, we had photos, we had their vehicle, everything. And we filed a report. And then a few months went by and we followed up. Hey, anything going on there? Nothing. Over 2 years later, we followed up and said, hey, anything ever happened with that trespasser? Their response was, we don't know what you're talking about. We actually stopped involving law enforcement because you can kind of see how at some point when people aren't taking you seriously, you're literally wasting your breath and your time. When we hand law enforcement a criminal action on a silver platter, you realize law enforcement doesn't really care. That said, they're dealing with other serious issues, and your issue doesn't seem to be that big of a deal right now.
A lot of local law enforcement also doesn't understand the complexity of this stuff, especially when it comes to cybercrime, cyberbullying. It's very easy to kind of write off the actions that are happening to you in the real life because they sort of stem from the internet. It's like, well, we don't have anything to do with the internet. No, but this really doesn't have anything to do with the internet. This is an isolated thing. It stands on its own merit, what this one person has done.
We'll just sum this up by saying that law enforcement can be very dismissive of these things, even when it is in their jurisdiction and it is something that meets the criminal threshold. So just be prepared for that. We are going back now and trying to loop law enforcement into this so that they can learn and we can learn and try to figure out whether something actually still can be done about some of these things, because it does send a strong message to people who partake in this stuff. I will say that a common theme in working with law enforcement was redirecting us to civil relief. And as anyone who's ever dealt with this stuff knows, that really never happens and it's really expensive. You can kind of imagine a group of bullies who are harming maybe a child. And let's say one person only throws their bologna sandwich at that child. That child can make the claim, I didn't do anything, I just threw my sandwich at them one time. And therefore you can see how this no-touch torture method is fascinating because no one person is particularly guilty of a heinous crime.
Yes.
But eventually, cumulatively, collectively, everybody who's ever done anything, you've been a part of this. You've been a part of gang stalking. And just because you threw your bologna sandwich doesn't mean that you weren't part of something that caused a lot of harm to our family.
Now we want to talk about local creators that knowingly or unknowingly were involved with this and how their proximity to us was weaponized.
Several YouTube creators got involved in these groups. They joined these groups, and some of them may have just had normal curiosity, maybe fear of their own to see what's going on in here. Some appear to have malicious intent, And other people joined these groups to promote their YouTube channels to get views from a group of people organized for the sole purpose of causing harm to our family.
Regardless of their reason for joining, what they didn't know was that just associating with these groups was making them susceptible to being victimized themselves by the psychopath. What the psychopath was trying to do was groom and recruit local creators to driving by our house, talking about us, outing us, things like that.
Something we want to keep reminding you of is that this person, the psychopath, has no arms and no legs. They're far away. But it's important that they see the torture. And who better to carry out the torture than somebody who's already comfortable with a camera and lives nearby? And you can see why it's so dangerous that other creators who are comfortable with cameras, who have a platform, who have an audience, can do this stuff and be involved.
Who is Chris L? Chris L is someone who showed up in the live chat of another local creator, and all he did was throw out the bait that Peer Living for Life are scammers.
Chris L right here. If you guys can see in the comments, Chris L is on it. I'll let you guys in on just a little small town gossip. The general consensus around town is not real keen on those people. There was a rumor that they didn't even live at their house.
At the time, we thought this too, our own naivety, even after all that we know, was this was probably just another hater. We now have substantial reason to think that this too is a psychopath. The nature of live chats is that creators feel compelled to answer questions that are asked. After all, isn't that the point of a live chat? And all he did was share what he thinks he knows about us, which was mostly spreading a rumor. But then what this creator did was, at some point they were involved in the Reddit group. They were asked to do a drive-by of our house and report back to the group with information about what they found, to which they happily did. We will address this more in another video. We're actually not attacking these people, and we're not attacking other creators. It's so important that we stay unified and talk about the bigger issue, was that a lot of people who didn't have malicious intent were actually being manipulated by a psychopath to unknowingly cause harm to our family. When other creators see this video, they will understand how we are and have been put in the position where we are literally fighting for our lives.
When a creator, which by the way is held to a far higher standard, because when we talk, people listen, talk about somebody else and share information about somebody else on a live chat with hundreds of thousands of people.
Yes.
That's not a small thing. And while it's easy to minimize and say all we did was, your standard is what makes that seemingly insignificant piece of this puzzle so significant. And we're going to talk about that more in another video.
Another creator, a through and through local, someone who is not part of our niche, someone that didn't know us, we don't know them. They made the mistake of advertising where they live, and shocker, it's in proximity to us, so they were targeted. He was actually recruited, and the psychopath created the story that was used to trick several other people into doing this to our family, that our house burned down, and they were extremely concerned about us. They hadn't heard from us, and they really wanted them to go by our house and do an update and talk to us to know that we were okay. And this person said, yeah, I think I could do that. I'm gonna go over there right now. I'm gonna go give you guys an update. To which they were greeted with us filming them and a sheriff deputy on their way.
Because this person is just a local and they were victimized by the psychopath into believing a pretty tragic story about a local family, you can imagine their confusion when they show up and they're not greeted in any welcoming fashion, and there's a deputy sheriff here to greet them. In hindsight, he acknowledged it's pretty ridiculous when you show up to a complete stranger's house with a camera and film them to give an update to a group of people you don't even know. As bizarre as it is, after the sheriff and after the interaction, the person then goes back and gives an update to the psychopath. Thankfully, this person had a monicum of morality about them to just say, you know, they're good, they want some privacy, which is the truth. We believe because of this interaction and subsequent confusion, very shortly after this, his YouTube channel was gone. And what's tragic is that this person may not ever know that they were victimized by this psychopath. Really, his only crime was trusting somebody from the internet he did not know, and he actually cared about a local family. We actually don't know how many local creators have been approached by Chris L. There's only some of the stuff, which we believe to be the tip of the iceberg, that we're actually aware of. Now, some of you creators out there, and we can't even tell you how many of you there are, who have reached out to us and asked us to lend a hand, will know why we would never, ever, ever respond. Because these people who are creators are part of the problem. They're part of the people collectively who've been carrying out this harm and threatening against our family. Another creator who we showed in our last video joined these hate groups to promote their channel, to get views. And they disclosed in one of their live chats that at least on one occasion, when they were questioned about it, admitted that they too have driven by our house.
I say this. I was going to run an errand, and it was in a different part of town, and I rolled by. I'm like, hey, I recognize that place. Yeah.
I don't know that they're even around because I never see them, and we are kind of in the same town. So
the fact that they're willing to disclose information like we drove by their house on a live chat is carrying out harm against our family, because collectively this is how gang stalking works and no-touch torture works. We want to share as human beings that since we published our last video, this particular creator has been under attack by this psychopath. And perhaps it's because of their willingness to share this information. This psychopath thinks that they can be groomed to carry out some particularly nefarious or malicious actions against our family. We find this to be disturbing on a level we did not even understand. We actually did reach out to a neighbor of this creator using the phone to try to speak to them. They refused to speak to us. But what we were actually trying to do was let them know that it's not us that's harassing them. It is a psychopath who is trying to push them over the edge. The reason we know it's the psychopath is because they're using the same footprint to attack this family and to provoke them. And they're using the same narrative that these usernames could be Jesse's fake usernames.
Yes.
And so they're being very sleight of hand. And we can understand someone in this situation literally not understanding what's happening to them and thinking, what in the world is going on?
The footprint of the psychopath is all over every single one of these videos, but certain people are very much being provoked more than others. And what we don't know is what's happening behind the scenes, but we have suspicion that these people too have been attacked by the angry mob, which is this one person.
Since we published our most recent video sharing the story of what's happened to our family, Chris L. has suddenly shown up on many videos, on many channels, provoking people and stirring up the hate. Chris L. is just one, remember, of their numerous usernames. And as creators, you guys are watching this video, you're going to realize what's just happened to you.
Some of you, we suspect, are going to connect dots that may have been happening for longer periods of time.
As we filmed this video, has expressed that they're going to once and for all expose Pure Living for Life. Believe us, we have nothing to hide. Pretty much everything's been taken from us, and so whatever they have to share, it doesn't matter to us at all. But what we wanted to tell them was, you're under attack. And be careful what you say, because those things may actually end up costing you your channel, which is ironically why we're making this video, because we're trying to rally the community and keep this from tearing us apart. These are just a few examples of the creators who have trespassed us, and we spotlight them very carefully. And we're going to discuss each of these in more detail in future videos. What we want to make clear is that, as you can see, what's important to no-touch torture is that no one person is specifically guilty of an egregious crime, but cumulatively and collectively, seemingly benign and small, insignificant actions can collectively create a lot of psychological trauma to a family. And why it's important that creators are involved in this is they have a platform. And so when they speak, people listen. And when someone, a creator with a platform, says that they drove by another creator's house, that might as well be an endorsement of doing the same thing, because people think, but the creator did it, therefore it must be okay.
Now we want to talk about some of the proof that we have that this is the same person and why we think they have multiple personality disorder. As I said, way back in 2017, when I suspected that a lot of this was one person, I had loose evidence with things like footprints, the copying and pasting of comments, but I didn't have any hard evidence. We're going to share what we think is enough that a reasonable person would agree, yep, that's probably the same person. Keep in mind that screenshots we share, usernames that are circled in red, we have strong suspicion, if not proof, to believe that this is the psychopath. There's a lot of other names we do believe are them, but we're less convinced, so to be really fair, we just didn't circle the names. I'm going to read a lot of what I have, and then we're also going to show screenshots. So the main two usernames are the Facebook and Reddit group creator and moderators. And I think, as well as the PDF, the book creator and distributor, Spirited Grace, formerly known as Grace Smith, is the person on Facebook, and their username on Reddit is Champagne5585. They have also used Champagne5585 on YouTube, and they have also stated that they too are positive stance. This main persona is a woman. It's one that is nice, charming, welcoming, and very naive to the inner workings of the internet. This persona doesn't know about the digging for someone's records. That's why this persona doesn't do that. Other personas do. She's just the messenger and the concerned mother in the group. But they slipped up, and under John Q. Smith, also a main contributor to the Facebook group, has conversations with Spirited Grace. At one point, that person said, yes, I just posted that to Homestead Dad's channel, and I'm monitoring his responses. This was a person they have targeted to convince that we were scammers after he posted a video using our name in the title. John Q. Smith, we haven't studied his persona other than it's frequently engaged with Spirited Grace as if they're having a business meeting about us. Again, same person, legitimately talking between themselves, making it look like an illusion that it's multiple people. But in response to the first video we put out just a handful of days ago, they posted something as John Q. Smith on Facebook, and then copy and pasted that and posted it at the same time on Reddit as CrackerJohn01. And as you'll see here, CrackerJohn01, he's not a very nice person. Based on the activity, behavior, wording, footprints, themes of how this person posts under what names, how they interact with themselves that we have carefully and meticulously observed over the past 5 years, we're confident that doing an investigation on this person would turn up a lot more and substantiate all of our other beliefs that we don't share lightly. So a recurring theme is that we have scammed people, that we're grifting. We're grifters. We're grifting people. This is a word that most people don't use, or they don't use it very often. They seem extremely upset that we make money off our YouTube videos and that we have made money on the internet in the past, as we are digital marketers, and we were long before we started this YouTube journey. The footprint we have identified right now that they're posting on all the response videos that have been done to show support to us is that we didn't actually quit YouTube because of the harassment. We quit because of decreasing ad revenues. They're doing this through several usernames. They talk a lot about people drinking the Kool-Aid. They talk a lot about how we don't actually live on site, and their behavior is such that they respond to each other under an existing comment. Several other names show up, they talk back and forth, and then a lot of their usernames show that the comment has been edited. And I don't know why that's important, but that too is one of their footprints.
What most people might not know is that we all sort of have handwriting digitally, much the way somebody's handwriting could be analyzed, how we write things. And this person they leave footprints that are very, very small, and it's kind of like a fingerprint everywhere they go. And so even though the username changes, how they do things is very identical. And take it from any creator who's spent hundreds of hours moderating comments. The number of ways people type stuff is ridiculous. There's no footprint. I mean, it's just crazy. And so this person, though, there's a tremendous amount of continuity in their commenting, which is only possible if it's one person.
We have a lot of other footprints. Sharing them all would make this video far too long. So what we want to show you here is the comments section under one of the cartoon satire videos that marks us darkly as people. Mind you, we've already shared this, but this was a brand new channel with very few subscribers. At the time, we even had very few subscribers to the hate groups. This was abnormal to have this amount of people so quickly comment and interact with each other, having long involved conversations. And these were the same usernames we were banning on our channel. They were using these same usernames to harass other channels that were using our name in the title of their videos.
Since publishing our first video on this topic, guess who has shown up on every single support video or response video? These personas, and one of them is Chris L. What's important to understand about Chris L specifically is they're not particularly nefarious, but they are co-associated with these other personas that cumulatively belong to the psychopath.
These personas and these footprints we've identified, they all cluster together and they kind of circulate like a dark cloud, and where you find one, you typically find a bunch of others.
For those of you who might not understand the vastness of the internet, this would be particularly difficult to achieve unless you knew exactly where to look. If you've ever tried to scroll through the comment section of a video, it can be overwhelming. And this person and all of their personas and all their banter shows up over here and then over there and over here and over there. It's constant. And finding these places where these personas show up to interact with each other would be nearly impossible unless you knew exactly where to look. And they don't interact broadly, they interact with each other. And so a lot of times the comment threads where they engage become massive. For a normal person to do that would be nearly impossible.
One more example I want to share. This is another creator we thought in our early days was the main troll. But the fact that he showed his face made that very unlikely. But this was happening to him too. And we now know it's because he used our name in the title of his video, which made him subject to an attack. He was using our name to get views. Every time he would post, the angry mob would show up, having conversations with themselves, bullying him, bullying us, and he eventually deleted his channel. The comments made no sense, but the theme was Jesse hate, which is another footprint.
It's extremely likely this creator has no clue what was happening to them.
Now we want to touch a little bit more on the multiple personalities. So we have the main usernames, Champagne5585 and Spirited Grace, Positive Stance, and this is the same persona. This is that caring woman, the naive caring woman. But it's very common to have the persona of the retired contractor engaging with these names with 30 years of experience. Not 20, not 40, not 25, not 35, 30 years of experience. Maybe this is why this person has latched onto the channel, because the woman doesn't seem to know anything about construction, which was very confusing as to why they latched onto us. But one of the personas very much cares about construction. In fact, they might care so deeply that because they have so much experience, that's the person that feels that they're silenced and whose criticism we aren't listening to. But then there's vulgar personas. Ones that yell out the most raunchy things, doing things to us, sexual things that are degrading and very disturbing. But here's where it gets really interesting, is they actually have a Jesse persona. What they do is they run around with their Jesse persona, bullying other channels, trying to make Jesse look incredibly mentally unstable. But the other personas are suggesting that that's a fake persona. So some people out there may have heard of the username Jedediah. And Jedediah's persona actually made it into the book. This person so deeply created this persona called Jedediah, who they said was Jesse, and Jedediah would show up on everyone's YouTube channels. But then this is where it gets really crazy, is that they had at one point a persona that defended us. And this username was called Troll Stalker. As soon as I started seeing this person appearing, I had that glimmer of hope. Somebody finally saw the light of what was happening, because this person defended us and they defended us and they defended us. But I had that moment go off, if they're defending us so hard, why aren't they emailing us personally? And how come Troll Stalker only shows up where these other personas show up, both on our channel and in all the other examples I have shared? How does this person immediately, the second these people go comment elsewhere, how does the Troll Stalker show up? I'm Jesse, I'm bullying other channels. Who are you? You're one of Jesse's fake personas. And like, this has happened so much. I know people know what we're talking about. They have done a very good job painting Jesse as the psychopath, which is really funny. If I haven't shared this, anyone talking about Jesse's fake IDs, that too is, we're pretty sure, the psychopath. At one point, this person admitted to, oh, I forgot to log out. I need to go to my other computer. So we imagine that this person just has this like room set up where they have all of their computers and all of their VPNs, and they run around commenting as each other. In fact, since we published our first video, the groups have been very quiet. We know there's people that have posted things in there that have gotten removed, but I suspect the reason the groups are quiet is this person, like a bunch of drama has been stirred up and they're busy running around the internet, like trying to egg everyone on. You can probably see why through a lot of this, we have bottled it up inside. We haven't shared a lot with other people. People we have shared things with didn't understand. It didn't even occur to us that other creators might be targeted and we're not their only victim. Because for a long time, we were under the illusion that we did in fact have a mob of people with this like deep hatred and disgust for us as people that wanted to do these things for our family. And it's come to light, especially over the past week, that we are not the only people that they are doing this to at various levels, although we don't think anyone is targeted as hard as we have been. Let me rewind if you didn't hear that. This psychopath is not just targeting us. There's more of you out there.
Channels like the Crockers Lion videos, viewers call them out on it, and get immediately blocked for the slightest questioning of the narrative. Then those silenced viewers eventually grows in size to the point they self-organize to share their unwanted opinions in another place where speech is allowed. The real issue is that the Crockers cannot control people's speech outside of their highly censored comments section. It's really this simple. What do you think? Remember that we don't have a team removing comments. This is real world.
If this isn't happening to you, or hasn't happened to you to the degree that it has to us, how do you feel that this person is watching your videos, they're posting about you? We have found that other creators in our niche have their own Reddits dedicated to them by the same person, who, by the way, Patrick Spence, we have very strong reason and proof to believe that this too is the same person. He is posting about a lot of other creators in our niche. If they don't have their own dedicated Reddits, then they are being posted about in a group that only Patrick Spence posts about. And it doesn't seem that a lot of people have engaged with this stuff necessarily, but this proves to us that they are in fact doing this to others, if not at very early stages. We want to say to other creators, if you feel that you might know something about this, and maybe they're even targeting you, or you know more information, you're welcome to come forward to us and share with us what you have.
Some have said we deserve this. Some say, oh, you're a large YouTube channel, you're a public figure. You know what? This all comes with the territory. We've seen response videos from creators that tell us that even creators do not understand, okay? And I think it's really important we take a moment just to acknowledge, if you don't understand, please do not minimize this message. Don't throw this under the rug and pretend like we're blowing this out of proportion and make comments like, oh, you know, cyberbullying comes with the territory. Because what you're doing is you're giving these people a platform. If we don't stand together, then seriously, take the camera, everybody, take the camera, throw it in the trash, because this is coming for you. This person wants to cause psychological trauma. That is their goal. They actually want to see other people get harmed. But it's very, very important that they themselves never lift a finger, never get dirty, and never commit a crime. This is why we're creating this video. We want the world to see this. What they want us to do is hurt each other. The things that have been done to us, it would be very normal for us to retaliate, to lash out. There have been response videos made where people suggest we should use our Second Amendment rights and all this stuff. And you know what? Quite frankly, all of that would be very, very justified. But what you don't understand is that's actually what they want. More importantly, they'd really appreciate if you film it so they can see it, because that's what they're getting from all of this stuff. And that's why we're trying to help you understand that this is not an us problem. This is an everybody problem. And they actually want us to hurt each other. We are the bait. You are the bait. And they're trying to create a war among us, and we don't see it. We now see it, and that's why we're telling you about it. What is important is that there's a high likelihood whoever's behind this person, this psychopath, is probably a victim of trauma themselves. And somehow, on a human level, we can have some level of empathy for them, that maybe what's happening to us happened to them. They had something stripped from them or removed from them, and this is how they're dealing with it. We know that a lot of people who engage in this type of activity later in life often were victims of this when they're younger, and they perpetrate it when they're older. And so it's possible that's why this person is doing this stuff, because they don't need to harm us personally. They need to see us harmed because it justifies what happened to them. We want to show you why this is so scary. Why this is not a YouTuber problem. This is not a large creator problem. What you're going to see, and we're going to just go through this bullet list style, what they have turned into a weapon, and you'll see why this could be anybody. They have used public information as a weapon. These are normal public information processes that involve transparency in the government, stuff like that, which are good things. But they take the information that's contained in them because they can be anonymous in collecting this information. That's an important element. And they've used that to spin narrative. They've used it to create things that don't exist out of things that they can collect from the anonymity of their basement and turned it into a narrative. And this can happen to anybody because I don't care who you are, there are public records about you. They have used what we're going to call petty community squabbles as a weapon. You'll see this around YouTube. There's just drama. My goodness, it's everywhere, right? And they've actually leveraged this to try to incentivize like people to attack each other by provoking one another. We've mentioned an instance of this earlier in the video where they try to take things and turn it into something it's not. And it's very sick and twisted. And they're preying upon just, differences between people, which unfortunately we make public. We want to make it very clear. This is not a community squabble. We are not attacking other channels. This is so much bigger than whatever petty things somebody said or did about some other channel or whatever childish thing somebody did. This is so much bigger because it really affects everybody, YouTube creators and anybody with an internet connection. They've actually weaponized when people co-associate. You'll see that anybody who's ever tried to self-identify to correlate themselves to Pure Living for Life, usually through getting views or trying to use our channel name to get views or something silly like that, they've turned that into a weapon, and that's how they quickly find these people and prey upon them. Now, they've actually used other things, but this one specific thing is an interesting footprint. They've taken the fact that you even are related to this channel whatsoever, or if you ever mention it. It'll be interesting to see if some of the response videos, which have nothing to do with Pure Living for Life, but have used our title in the videos, later become targets of this stuff. Hopefully they don't. They have used convenience or proximity as a weapon. So we have examples. We've shared examples of people who have no relationship to Pure Living for Life or living off the grid or anything like that, but they're close in proximity. It's convenient. And these are not always YouTube creators, by the way. Just purely the fact that you live nearby because somebody either volunteered that information or they found you on the internet through all their little minglings, and they try to use you as a weapon. So if you think that people who live next door to you can't be weaponized against you, think again. This is scary. They've weaponized genuine concern. They've used narrative that a normal person would say, that's tragic, I care about that, that shouldn't happen to people, and they've turned that into a weapon and tricked people into taking part in this no-touch torture gang stalking using genuine concern for other human beings. This is a particularly interesting trigger. They've tried to weaponize constitutional rights, freedoms, things like that, which are something that a lot of people in this country feel very strongly about. And they use that as a trigger to get people that these people are trying to stand on your rights. And they've used that to, ironically, somehow twist it so that other people are violating our rights, which is a bit of an irony. They've actually weaponized your own sense of what's right and wrong. And that's part of why all this rumor spreading and narrative creating is so nefarious, because if we were doing something wrong, we would expect people to call us out. You actually expect that. You want to have that strong sense of what's right and wrong. And if you see something that's wrong, you want to stand up for that because that's normal human behavior, right? And so when they spin these narratives, they're lying, they're scammers, they don't really live there, the child's not real, normal people with a strong sense of right and wrong want to stand up and say, hey, that's not okay. And so they've weaponized that against you. They've tried to prey upon you first for your sense of right and wrong. What's interesting about one of the personas is this person plays down their knowledge. They're just dumb. They don't know anything. And so they ask questions like, hey, can anybody see anything wrong with this? Hey, is this pilot breaking any aviation laws? Or hey, these people building a house, are they breaking any law, building laws or codes or anything like that? And interestingly, when normal people speak up, because broadly as a community of human beings, we have a lot of intelligence. And so we know a lot about a lot of different things. And so they speak up and say, you know what they're doing wrong? They're doing this wrong. And this one persona is very quick and suddenly shows up with a place where you can report that to the government, and the government can drop the hammer on these people and smash them. And so they've weaponized our knowledge our awareness of how things work, how government systems work or how laws work, or our hobbies, the things we're interested in, and our awareness of the boundaries that keep society safe. And so they've used that against people by asking them, hey, what are they doing wrong? And then ironically, suddenly, like a knight in shining armor, they show up. By the way, they never report somebody. They get you to report us. And that way they are not guilty of a crime. We need help. We need your help. We need the audience's help. We need other creators' help. We need everybody's help. We need this video to reach the right people at the FBI, at the RCMP, and in the cybercrime departments. We have strong reason to believe this person resides in Canada. We want to blow the whistle on this to advertisers, big advertising firms who use these platforms and spend billions of dollars with these platforms, because we want these platforms to pay attention. This is happening on your platform and it's not okay. And unfortunately, it's probably going to hurt us all financially, but we don't want to coexist in this environment. Do you? I wouldn't want anybody to live in this environment. And the only way that's going to change is if the advertisers pay attention. We need this word to get out to everybody. Believe us. We understand how long of a story and how meticulous and detailed this is. Believe us. We know everyone needs to see this video, because just because you're not a YouTube creator does not mean this does not affect you. And so we want this to get out. So we're asking you, share this video, share it to Facebook groups that you're a part of, share it to your own personal profiles or whatever that is. If you know somebody who you feel like would benefit from it, please email it to them. And let's just try to get the word out there about this stuff. We're going to come up with a campaign that requests people to change their profile photos and their background images on your social media. We feel like this is a way so people cannot get away from this subject. For the month of January, we're asking you to change your profile image or your background image on social media, or make a post to your social media profile to let people know you support this. Ironically, this isn't even just about cyberbullying. This goes so far beyond cyberbullying, it's bonkers. And we feel like nobody should be able to escape from this subject, at least for a little while, and so we can start a conversation and talk about it. We're also asking you to send this to the head honchos at Reddit, Facebook, and YouTube specifically. Don't let them ignore this, and we're going to provide a way for you to do that. We're going to provide links in the description below that allow you to take actions that you feel like you can, that are appropriate for you. So please check the description below this video for how to send this video to the appropriate authorities, how to contact advertisers, and how to let these platforms know. You can also use the share button that's below this video. That gives you lots of options to copy a link, send an email you can put on your social media. So use that share button below to spread the word.
The very last message we want to share in this video is that predators are going nowhere. But you can really think about what you choose to put on the internet. We've all heard the phrase, what you put on the internet is on the internet forever. And most of us think, oh yeah, that's fine. I've done nothing wrong. I have nothing to hide. I've never posted anything that I'm ashamed of. And this is true for us as well. And I think you can see now on a darker, more sinister level how things on the internet can be used against you. Nothing we have done are we ashamed of. We have done nothing wrong. And information about us and who we know and things we ourselves have chosen to post in our past that we're unaware of, that we'd be victims of a psychopath, have come back to ultimately hurt our family. Here's some of the things that you might not realize can be used against you. The city you live in, your friends, your family members, names of your pets, where you went to school, the sports teams you're on, who your teacher is, vacations you go on, places you frequent, photos in or of your home, even if you blur out the address, your vehicle, your license plate. You'd be shocked at the number of things that seem extremely innocent, and they are, but when you combine them all together, it leads the wrong person to exactly who you are, where you are, who your connections are, and where you sleep at night.
So the question is, who is Chris L? We all want to know. We are building a resource page for people who are dealing with this right now, or people who want to help. We're going to link to that resource page below. If you're suffering and you're under attack, please check out the page. We're going to be building a resource page of actionable things that people can do who are under attack. And we're also going to be giving clear, actionable ways people who want to help can get involved. Thank you.
Thank you
for watching. We're exhausted. We imagine you are too. This is a fight worth fighting. Chris L., we know you're watching this video, and what you're going to find out is that when you mess with a community of really good people, it does not end well. We're coming for you.